Hi, welcome. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on such a lovely summer evening. You are at the Osseo Road Reconstruction online open house, just to confirm that you're in the right meeting. So before we get started, I just want to make sure that all the technology works for everyone. Rebecca, if you can go to the next slide, that would be great. Thank you. So if you can see that my lips are moving, but you can't hear me, please check your audio to make sure that you are able to hear me. The other detail is we are going to be doing a question and answer session after the presentation. So I want to be able to call on you correctly. So if you are able to change the name that you are appearing in the participant list or on your screen to the name that you would like to be called, that would be very much appreciated. So we do have a few people joining, so we'll let them jump on for just a few more seconds. And then we'll get started. So again, welcome. My name is Joy Machado. I work with Zan Associates. We are a consulting firm that is working with the AECOM consulting team that is doing the design and engineering for this project for Hennepin County. So I will be your facilitator tonight for this meeting. So before we jump into the content of the meeting, we're just going to run through a few logistics. Next slide, please. For those of you who are not familiar with Zoom, I just wanted to run through some of the features so you know how you can communicate with us. In the bottom left-hand corner is your microphone button, and that controls your audio. So if you are having trouble hearing, you can right-click on that or click on the arrow, and it'll give you some options to be able to access your settings on your computer so you are able to hear us. Also tonight, we are allowing participants to turn on and off their video. So you are more than welcome to show your face, since I know people could use bright smiling faces right now. So you're more than welcome to have your video on if you would like. We do ask though that if you are not speaking to put yourself on mute. That way anyone who is speaking is able to be heard clearly by everyone else. Other ways that you can communicate with me and staff during this meeting, you can do it through the chat function, which is located at the bottom of your screen. You can click on that and you'll see that there are some messages already in the chat. We do have staff that are monitoring that chat, the chat screen. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put that in there. We do ask that you use the everyone function. That way all staff can see that. If you do send a chat to an individual or another person that's not everyone, then that will not get sent to all staff, so we will not be able to see that. So we do ask that everyone puts any questions or comments through there, and we will be monitoring that throughout the meeting. You're also able to give us some reactions at the bottom of the screen. You can either give us a thumbs up, you can clap, you can raise your hand. If you do have a question during the question and answer, you can raise your hand and I will call on you. You can also leave your name in the chat screen and I can call on you that way. Or if you don't feel like you want to speak tonight, you can always leave your question or comment in the chat and I will read it out loud as well. Next screen. So our agenda for tonight for the Osseo Road Reconstruction open house, we are going to kick off with some welcome and introductions by our project staff and agency staff. And then we will go through a presentation which will provide a project overview, a schedule, information about past engagement activities, and then a view of our initial designs of our cross sections and some key areas along Osseo Road. And then some next steps and how you all can provide additional feedback after this meeting. After the presentation, we will do some question and answers. And as I mentioned, there'll be several ways that you can provide the questions, and project staff will be here to respond to those questions. So why don't we get us kicked off by doing some welcome. Next slide, please. And I'm going to pass this on to Amber Klein with Hennepin County. Amber?
Super, thank you very much, Joy. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Osseo Road Reconstruction Online Open House. Like Joy said, my name is Amber Klein and I am the Hennepin County Project Manager for this project. And at this time, I'd also like to recognize a couple other county team members that we have on the meeting tonight that have been participating on the project. Jason Stabell, Emily Kettle from the Bike and Ped team, and Caitlin Canfield, our communications specialist for the project. I'd also like to recognize Bill Emery, who is the aide to Commissioner Fernando for District 2, who will be on the line sometime tonight. With that, I'd also like to thank a big thank you to our project team, who've able, through their hard work, have pulled this project together and have had something to present to you tonight. And that would be AECOM, Zan Associates, HR Green, and MT Spatial. I'd also like to thank our project partners, for the other agency partners that we've been working with on the project, through the City of Minneapolis, the Minneapolis Park and Rec Board, and Metro Transit. So with that, I think each of our agency partners will introduce themselves and we'll go from there.
Great, thanks, Amber. Kelsey, would you like to say hello?
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelsey Fote. I'm a transportation planner with the City of Minneapolis. I'm excited to hear what you all have to ask tonight. Thanks.
Great. Julie with MPRB.
I'm Julie Rosser with the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. I work in the planning department. I'm an engineering technician and serve in the capacity as a project manager also.
Great, thank you, Julie. And Christina from Metro Transit.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Christina Morrison. I'm a project manager in the Bus Rapid Transit Projects section of Metro Transit. Thanks for having us.
And Jeff Rhoda from AECOM.
Hello, everybody. This is Jeff Rhoda with AECOM. I'm the project manager for our design group. Also on the line tonight, I see we have Angie Christo, who's our lead traffic engineer, and also Kelly Kostecki, who's our lead design engineer. So glad to be a part of the meeting.
Great, thank you, everyone. So normally, if we were meeting in person, I would do who's here tonight. So since we are not in person, we do have just a poll for you to do. So Rebecca, if you could launch that poll. Just some questions for us to get an idea of who is here tonight. So you should be seeing a poll in front of you. If you could just take a second to answer. There are 2 questions. Tell us about yourself. You're able to select more than one of the responses. And then number 2, we just want to know if you have attended any past events before the pandemic set in. We did have a walking tour and an open house in November. Or if you just cannot remember anything before 2020, that is an acceptable response as well. So we'll just give people a few seconds to respond to this, and then we can share with everyone who is here tonight. All right. I think we have most everyone who has voted, if we want to share the results. All right, looks like we have a lot of people who live, so a lot of residents with us tonight, many people who walk and bike along Osseo Road, lots of drivers as expected, and we do have some people who take the bus as well, and then we have other participants with us as well tonight. Great. Did you attend any of our previous events? Looks like just a handful of you, a couple of you just attended our walking tour and open house tonight. So welcome to most of you who are new. to our event. And there is one person who admitted they just can't remember anything before 20. So great. Well, we are so glad that everyone is able to be here. So the next thing on our agenda is to share a presentation with you. Our presentation is a pre-recorded presentation. So we do have, if you miss anything from tonight's presentation, we do have it posted onto the project website for you, along with the presentation slides, and the initial designs are also posted there as well. So don't feel like you have to try to capture everything by listening to this, because everything that is being shared tonight is on our website. So I will, if Rebecca, if you are ready to share the presentation, we can go for that.
Welcome to the Osseo Road Online Open House. My name is Amber Klein, and I am the Hennepin County Project Manager for the Osseo Road Reconstruction Project. The county is leading the project along with our consultant, Jeff Rhoda from AECOM, along with our other project partners from Minneapolis, the Minneapolis Park and Rec Board, and Metro Transit. Our project on Osseo Road runs from Penn Avenue to 49th Avenue, which is part of the County Road 152 corridor. This piece is the corridor, the connecting between the newly finished Brooklyn Boulevard reconstruction project and Brooklyn Center and the Weber 44 reconstruction project starting construction early next year. Currently, Osseo Road is a 3-lane road section with an on-street bikeway that intersects with the Grand Rounds Trail through the Victory Memorial Parkway. There is also existing sidewalk along the east side of the roadway with portions of walk along the west. The posted speed limit is 30 to 35. The corridor contains 4 Metro bus routes, the C line and the future D line. The existing roadway has reached the end of its service life, so we will be replacing the pavement, the curb and gutter, sidewalks, and drainage elements. Our project goals include enhancing of PED crossings to minimize exposure to vehicles, filling the sidewalk gaps to provide continuous PED facilities, upgrading to ADA ramps and walks, and upgrading the existing traffic signals with ABS, accessible PED signals. Our current project schedule. We are currently in the planning and preliminary design phase and have hit and are in the initial design to present to you today. I plan to walk you through this design and also hit on a few additional design concepts throughout the corridor that we hope to get your feedback on. We further expect the final design to be completed next year and construction to start in 2022. Through previous public engagement, surveys, and face-to-face interactions with the community from November of last year to February of this year, we have identified 3 main priorities for the corridor. These top 3 priorities are intersection safety, pedestrian crossings, and sidewalks. Also through previous public engagements, some of the top concerns we've heard from the community are speeding, people don't feel safe along the corridor, and the curve near Osseo Road and 44th Avenue. With these top priorities from the community in mind, we started developing various roadway configurations. With Osseo Road having a very diverse corridor of businesses, residential, and regional trail, we quickly realized that more than one single roadway configuration would be needed for the corridor. In using technical considerations, input from the community, and the project team, we have an initial concept to present to you. In the next few slides, I'll be presenting this initial design to you. As we look at the project, we separated the corridor into 6 major roadway configurations, or we call them typical sections. In using these multiple sections, we can provide additional safety features for pedestrians, reduce lanes and the lane width, and minimize significant impacts to adjacent properties as needed to this very diverse corridor. So starting on the north end and on the left section, the left side, typical section, we are matching into existing roadway design with 2 11-foot travel lanes and both a left and right turn lanes at the 49th Avenue intersection. A 10-foot multi-use path will be provided on each side of the roadway. As we move farther down the corridor and on the right side, this typical section we come to the bridge section, where we are taking the existing 3-lane section with the outside bike boulevard and continuing with 2 11-foot travel lanes and with an outside 5-foot shoulder. The multi-use path will also be provided over the bridge of this section of the roadway. As we continue further south, we move into the main section for Osseo Road, Section A. This section runs from the previous bridge section to Victory Memorial Parkway intersection. In this section, we will be replacing the existing 3-lane section that has a center turn lane and outside bike boulevards with 2 11-foot travel lanes. We are also introducing a grassy boulevard on either side of the roadway section between the path and the roadway. With the continued multi-use path and grass boulevards, we will improve the safety for people walking, biking, rolling along Osseo Road. As we continue further down the corridor, we continue into the sections B and C. On the left typical section, we transition to the 3-lane section with the left turn lanes at Memorial Drive and the Russell Avenue intersections. The 10-foot multi-use path continues with a varying grass boulevard width between the path and the roadway. On the right-hand side typical section at Victory Memorial Parkway and Grand Rounds Trail intersection, we introduced a raised median to define the left turn lanes for additional pedestrian safety. The 10-foot multi-use path also continues with a varying width grass boulevard. The continuous multi-use path will further serve as a connection point into the Grand Rounds Regional Trail. And the last of the sections, Section D, runs from Queen Avenue intersection to the end of the project at the Penn Avenue intersection. We continue with the raised median with varying widths with portions of grass in the median. This section also contains the 2 travel lanes and the 10-foot multi-use path along the roadway. At the Penn Avenue intersection and the business districts, we transition to a walk to reduce impacts to the adjacent businesses along Osseo Road. These are the 6 different typical sections or roadway configurations for the project. Next, I want to hit on a few of the significant items along the corridor where we want your pointed opinions and feedback, where this can be provided in the survey or the pinpoint site. During our previous public engagement, we asked for feedback on the staircase, right here. We've heard from the neighborhood that the staircase on the southwest side of the Osseo Road Bridge connection that connects to Washburn Avenue is not often used. We are proposing to replace the staircase with one of 2 possible sidewalk connections. Option A, to connect a new sidewalk from the north end of Washburn Avenue that runs along Osseo Road and connects just north of the 47th Avenue. Option B, to create a new sidewalk on 47th Avenue between Washburn, which connects down here off the screen, and the Osseo Road, same connection point. Next is the 47th Avenue intersection. We are proposing to replace the existing signal with an enhanced pedestrian crossing with the pedestrian activated flasher beacon right here. A new BRT, bus rapid transit station from the C line and future D line, these 2 pieces here, is also being proposed for this intersection. The nearest C line stations are located at the 51st Avenue and Brooklyn Boulevard, and the 43rd Avenue and Penn Avenue, which are both about a 1.25 mile gap between this proposed station. We are also considering closure of the 46th, this alternative up here in the corner, closure of the 47th Avenue intersection and readjust the BRT stations to be adjacent to each other. We are currently working through this alternatives with options, with the city and Metro Transit, but we would greatly appreciate your initial thoughts on the closure of 47th Avenue intersection as we continue moving forward with alternatives at this intersection. Next is the 46th Avenue and Sheridan Avenue intersections. To improve visibility for people turning and driving at this intersection, we are proposing to close the Sheridan to dead end it and to realign the 46th Avenue intersection to a more perpendicular intersection with Osseo Road. At this next intersection, at the Russell Avenue intersection, to improve safety for people driving and the traffic flow at the intersection with Victory Memorial Parkway, we are proposing to change the intersection with Russell Avenue to right turns only. So essentially turning it into a right in, right out. At the existing traffic signal for the parkway, to improve safety for people biking, walking, and rolling around this high volume intersection with Victory Memorial Parkway and the Grand Rounds Trail and 45th Avenue, we are proposing to update and widen the white striping for people walking, adding a green colored crossing for people biking, and adding a raised median for a waiting area or a refuge in the center of Osseo Road for people walking, biking, and rolling. And then further down this intersection at the 45th Avenue intersection, to also further increase safety, we are proposing the same raised median at this intersection, which only allows for right turns at 45th Avenue. In conjunction with the City of Minneapolis's planned Queen Avenue Bike Boulevard project, we are proposing to install enhanced pedestrian crossing with pedestrian activated flasher beacon at the intersection of Queens Avenue and Osseo Road, right here at this location. Further down Osseo Road at the 44th Avenue intersection, right through here, we are proposing to revise the curve and extend the raised median. With the reduced travel lane width, the raised median, and the adjustment of this curve, this should help to prevent the off-road crashes that have been happening at this location. So next steps, we want to hear from you. We want your input on this initial design. How will this initial design change how you walk, bike, roll, and drive on and around Osseo Road? We will be collecting your comments through August. Hitting on our schedule again, we will be completing the initial design this fall with the final design completed in fall of 2021 and construction expected to start in 2022. In conclusion, please find our project website, how you can provide your feedback, and how to stay informed. Also included on the slide is my contact information. Thank you for listening and providing us your feedback to help us further inform the design of Osseo Road.
This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to the Osseo Road online open house. Sorry about that. Now my screen is not advanced. There it goes. We'll just do that over. Welcome to the Osseo Road online open house. My name is Amber Klein, and I am the Hennepin County Project Manager for the Osseo Road Reconstruction Project. The county is leading the project along with our consultant, Jeff Rhoda from AECom, along with our other project partners from Minneapolis, the Minneapolis Park and Rec Board, and Metro Transit. Our project on Osseo Road runs from Penn Avenue to 49th Avenue, which is part of the County Road 152 corridor. This piece is the corridor, the connecting between the newly finished Brooklyn Boulevard reconstruction project and Brooklyn Center and the Weber 44 reconstruction project starting construction early next year. Currently, Osseo Road is a 3-lane road section with an on-street bikeway that intersects with the Grand Rounds Trail through the Victory Memorial Parkway. There is also existing sidewalk along the east side of the roadway with portions of walk along the west. The posted speed limit is 30 to 35. The corridor contains 4 Metro bus routes, the C line and the future D line. The existing roadway has reached the end of its service life, so we will be replacing the pavement, the curb and gutter, sidewalks, and drainage elements. Our project goals include enhancing of ped crossings to minimize exposure to vehicles, filling the sidewalk gaps to provide continuous ped facilities, upgrading to ADA ramps and walks, and upgrading the existing traffic signals with ABS, accessible ped signals. Our current project schedule. We are currently in the planning and preliminary design phase and have hit and are in the initial design to present to you today. I plan to walk you through this design and also hit on a few additional design concepts throughout the corridor that we hope to get your feedback on. We further expect the final design to be completed next year and construction to start in 2022. Through previous public engagement, surveys, and face-to-face interactions with the community from November of last year to February of this year, we have identified 3 main priorities for the corridor. These top 3 priorities are intersection safety, pedestrian crossings, and sidewalks. Also through previous public engagements, some of the top concerns we've heard from the community are speeding, people don't feel safe along the corridor, and the curve near Osseo Road and 44th Avenue. With these top priorities from the community in mind, we started developing various roadway configurations. With Osseo Road having a very diverse corridor of businesses, residential, and regional trail, we quickly realized that more than one single roadway configuration would be needed for the corridor. In using technical considerations, input from the community, and the project team, we have an initial concept to present to you. In the next few slides, I'll be presenting this initial design to you. As we look at the project, we separated the corridor into 6 major roadway configurations, or we call them typical sections. In using these multiple sections, we can provide additional safety features for pedestrians, reduce lanes and the lane width, and minimize significant impacts to adjacent properties as needed to this very diverse corridor. So starting on the north end and on the left section, the left side typical section, we are matching into existing roadway design with 2 11-foot travel lanes and both a left and right turn lanes at the 49th Avenue intersection. A 10-foot multi-use path will be provided on each side of the roadway. As we move farther down the corridor and on the right side, this typical section, we come to the bridge section, where we are taking the existing 3-lane section with the outside bike boulevard and continuing with 2 11-foot travel lanes and with an outside 5-foot shoulder. The multi-use path will also be provided over the bridge of this section of the roadway. As we continue further south, we move into the main section for Osseo Road, Section A. This section runs from the previous bridge section to the Victory Memorial Parkway intersection. In this section, we will be replacing the existing 3-lane section that has a center turn lane and outside bike boulevards with 2 11-foot travel lanes. We are also introducing a grassy boulevard on either side of the roadway section between the path and the roadway. With the continued multi-use path and grass boulevards, we will improve the safety for people walking, biking, rolling along Osseo Road. As we continue further down the corridor, we continue into the sections B and C, here and here. On the left typical section, we transition to the 3-lane section with the left turn lanes at Memorial Drive and the Russell Avenue intersections. The 10-foot multi-use path continues with a varying grass boulevard width between the path and the roadway. On the right-hand side typical section at the Victory Memorial Parkway and Grand Rounds Trail intersection, we introduced a raised median to define the left turn lanes for additional pedestrian safety. The 10-foot multi-use path also continues with a varying width grass boulevard. The continuous multi-use path will further serve as a connection point into the Grand Rounds Regional Trail. And the last of the sections, Section D, runs from Queen Avenue intersection to the end of the project at the Penn Avenue intersection. We continue with the raised median with varying widths with portions of grass in the median. This section also contains the 2 travel lanes and the 10-foot multi-use path along the roadway. At the Penn Avenue intersection and the business districts, we transition to a walk to reduce impacts to the adjacent businesses along Osseo Road. These are the 6 different typical sections or roadway configurations for the project. Next, I want to hit on a few of the significant items along the corridor where we want your pointed opinions and feedback, where this can be provided in the survey or the pinpoint site. During our previous public engagement, we asked for feedback on the staircase, right here. We've heard from the neighborhood that the staircase on the southwest side of the Osseo Road Bridge connection that connects to Washburn Avenue is not often used. We are proposing to replace the staircase with one of 2 possible sidewalk connections. Option A, to connect a new sidewalk from the north end of Washburn Avenue that runs along Osseo Road and connects just north of the 47th Avenue. Option B, to create a new sidewalk on 47th Avenue between Washburn, which connects down here off the screen, and the Osseo Road, same connection point. Next is the 47th Avenue intersection. We are proposing to replace the existing signal with an enhanced pedestrian crossing with the pedestrian activated flasher beacon right here. A new BRT, bus rapid transit station from the C line and future D line, these 2 pieces here, is also being proposed for this intersection. The nearest C line stations are located at the 51st Avenue and Brooklyn Boulevard, and the 43rd Avenue and Penn Avenue, which are both about a 1.25 mile gap between this proposed station. We are also considering closure of the 46th, this alternative up here in the corner, closure of the 47th Avenue intersection and readjust the BRT stations to be adjacent to each other. We are currently working through this alternatives with options, with the city and Metro Transit, but we would greatly appreciate your initial thoughts on the closure of 47th Avenue intersection as we continue moving forward with alternatives at this intersection. Next is the 46th Avenue and Sheridan Avenue intersections. To improve visibility for people turning and driving at this intersection, we are proposing to close the Sheridan to dead end it and to realign the 46th Avenue intersection to a more perpendicular intersection with Osseo Road. The next major intersection, so at the Russell Avenue intersection, to improve safety for people driving and the traffic flow at the intersection for Victoria Memorial Parkway, we're proposing to change the intersection with the Russell Avenue to right turns only, so right in and right out. At the existing traffic signal for the parkway to improve safety for people biking, walking, and rolling around this high volume intersection with Victoria Memorial Parkway and the Grand Rounds Trail and the 45th Avenue.
Do you want to pause? Rebecca, do you want to stop recording?
Yeah.
This conference will now be recorded.
At the next intersection for the Russell Avenue intersection to improve safety for people driving and the traffic flow at the intersection with Victoria Memorial Parkway, we're proposing to change the intersection with Russell Avenue to right turns only. So it's a right in, right out.
Sorry, Amber.
Did I say it again?
Yes. So, Rebecca, if you could.
This conference will now be recorded.
At this next intersection, at the Russell Avenue intersection, to improve safety for people driving and the traffic flow at the intersection with Victory Memorial Parkway, we are proposing to change the intersection with Russell Avenue to right turns only. So essentially turning it into a right in, right out. At the existing traffic signal for the parkway, to improve safety for people biking, walking, and rolling around this high volume intersection with Victory Memorial Parkway and the Grand Rounds Trail and 45th Avenue, we are proposing to update and widen the white striping for people walking, adding a green colored crossing for people biking, and adding a raised median for a waiting area or a refuge in the center of Osseo Road for people walking, biking, and rolling. And then further down this intersection at the 45th Avenue intersection, to also further increase safety, we are proposing the same raised median at this intersection, which only allows for right turns at 45th Avenue. As we continue farther down the corridor in conjunction with the City of Minneapolis's planned Queens Avenue Bike Boulevard project, we are proposing to install an enhanced pedestrian crossing with a pedestrian activated flasher beacon at the intersection of Queen Avenue and Osseo Road, right here. Further down Osseo Road at the 44th Avenue intersection, we are proposing to revise the curve, this curve that's right here, and extend the raised median with the reduced travel lane width, the raised median, and the adjustment to the curve. This should help to prevent the off-road crashes at this location. So next steps, we want to hear from you. We want your input on this initial design. How will this initial design change how you walk, bike, roll, and drive on and around Osseo Road? We will be collecting your comments through August. Hitting on our schedule again, we will be completing the initial design this fall with the final design completed in fall of 2021 and construction expected to start in 2022. In conclusion, please find our project website, how you can provide your feedback, and how to stay informed. Also included on the slide is my contact information. Thank you for listening and providing us your feedback to help us further inform the design of Osseo Road.
Thank you for that presentation, Amber. We are going to start the question and answer portion of our meeting. As I mentioned before, there are several ways that you could ask a question. I will facilitate the question and answer session by looking at the questions that have been provided in the chat. And I see that we have a few questions already that were provided during the presentation. So we will be pulling the questions from the chat. We actually are grouping them into the same similar topics, themes, or intersections so that we are not repeating ourselves. Also, if we do need to clarify a question, I can look to see who submitted it, and I may call you out if we just need some clarification on the question that you provided. You may also raise your hand via on the bottom of your screen or in your participant name. You're able to indicate by raising your virtual hand, and I will look for that and call on you if you so desire to ask a question basically in person by unmuting yourself. Feel free to turn your video on if you'd like as well. So we can get started with that. Jeff is pulling up our design concept map. So this map is posted onto the website if you'd like to take a closer look on your own time, but we will be using this to help us walk through the question and answer portion of the evening. All right, Amber, are you ready for your first question?
I think so. Go for it, Joy.
All right. So I think let's just start on the northern end. For the 47th Avenue intersection, we did get a couple of comments, one in support of the closure, one in keeping it open. As you mentioned, that we are looking into closing it. One of the questions is, would the closure make it safer to walk to the dog park?
I don't know if I would say it would be safer. I guess it's a point of pedestrians walking across the across 47th and not having to cross additional traffic. So I don't know if you could say it would make it safer, but with closing 47th, you eliminated an intersection, a point of contact with vehicles. So in that point, it could make it safer, I suppose. I don't know, Jeff, if you have anything else.
Gina, did you want to expand on your question? Was that you who answered?
Yeah. Sorry, it's getting an echo. So like walking on that edge right there to the dog park is pretty scary. And that's usually the street that you're taking to get back to the dog park. Whereas the other ways, like all those people are going to be driving through the neighborhoods, which I don't know if people will like that. Maybe they'd be open to it, but you're kind of diverting all that dog park traffic through the neighborhoods.
Gotcha. Is that more because the entrance to the park is on the back side?
So there's two entrances to the dog park. There's one near Osseo, which is, I think, a little bit scary to walk there because that traffic just barrels right through there. But then there's also one on the very far back inside, like furthest at the very other end. I don't know.
The other end of 47th Avenue? Back to the east, I think.
Yeah, back behind Thomas.
Yeah.
Like back in there.
Yep.
So as part of our project, we are working with the park board, the Minneapolis Park Board, to possibly add a different entrance to the building or to the park, and that might be closer to along Osseo Road, that they may have that entrance at. But as far as 47th traffic, I guess with it, if we were to close it, we'd probably find that they wouldn't be using that. Some of the side streets might get used more.
Yeah, which, I mean, I don't know necessarily either way what's the right answer. I was just curious because it is scary kind of trying to get to the dog park from that one end closest to Osseo.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Gina. So our next question has to do with Russell Avenue. The question was whether it's being considered to be closed. Seems like one point in the past we had thought about closing Russell Avenue, and now we're going to do right in, right out. The comment was it's an option of many favor of many in the neighborhood to close that. And then in relations to that, what are the turning movement counts? There doesn't seem to be too much traffic turning there very often.
Right, so we did have an early concept about closing Russell Avenue. And then after a little bit further review and looking at the city's, I don't know if they're considered fire code stuff as far as the length of road that could be, have a dead end as far as fire safety, police and fire trucks being able to get to the end of the road. So we kind of, after reviewing some of those standards, we turned it back to a right in, right out.
Right. And I'll just add, it's, as an example, over here on Upton, the existing configuration has a small turnaround, on a dead end street because of its length. It needs to have
6 o'clock.
turnaround facility, but you can see the size of it. What the new standards and obviously the newer and larger fire trucks that are used today, in order to facilitate the ability for a fire truck to turn around, that size of a cul-de-sac, as the term we would use, is much bigger. And when we laid that out toward the end here, we're going to significantly impact one of the properties on either side of Russell. And so we were hesitant to impact private property to that degree. And so we basically went back to this concept because of its minimal impact to private property, and still provides us some safety improvements for controlling turning movements here. So that's just a little bit of background on that.
And then I don't know if I don't have the turning counts on me. I think right at my fingertips as far as what those turning movements were.
Yeah, I don't have them either, but you're right. And the public is correct. They're pretty low. A lot of these side street locations have relatively low turning movements. And Russell would be in that category as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, closure of the street would not significantly impact traffic movements because the volumes are very low.
Great. So we do have a couple questions about the Victory Memorial Parkway intersection regarding any the signals and traffic cameras. Are there plans to add traffic cameras at this intersection, and will the signal system be upgraded?
Yes, definitely the signal system will be upgraded. As far as cameras, I mean, we use cameras for sensing vehicles, but we don't have cameras that for like red light running, any of that part. It's just sensing loop. Instead of using sensing loops, we use cameras. So that all that intersection at Victoria Memorial Parkway will all be upgraded. So they'd be more than likely be overhead signal system that'll go in at this location. That design hasn't been completed as of yet, but yes, we will have new signal at the system at this intersection.
Okay, thank you, Amber. So moving on to 45th Avenue intersection, people want to know what the benefit of having right turns only on 45th. The comment too is that eliminating the left turn on 45th will really isolate this part of the neighborhood. Otherwise, the only option to turn left onto the parkway is to go all the way down to Xerxes and double back. So I guess the question is, why is that decision being made for 45th Avenue?
To restrict, well, a lot of it has to do with that median piece as far as protecting peds and bikes along the corridor. Putting that ped refuge in is a safety feature, and one of those, because 45th is so close to the intersection, it kind of that's just kind of where we left it at, I guess.
Yeah.
Jeff, if you have any better.
Yep, and Amber, what we found with current and projected traffic volumes even today, and I think a lot of folks probably experience this, is that the traffic that wants to turn left to Memorial Parkway from Osseo Road going northbound, that a lot of times the vehicles stack up and actually block 45th. And observations out there and feedback we heard at some of the earlier meetings, if there's someone who wants to turn left at 45th, they may be sitting here because of that open center left turn lane. There's some confusion on which intersection people are turning left at. As a result, you do get some errant movements where people are, abruptly turning out into traffic to go around a vehicle that may be sitting here when that driver wants to get up to this left turn. So there's some, competing movements that happen in here with that stacking of vehicles back and blocking 45th. It prohibits the safe movement of left turning traffic during those peak hours. And we understand that that's a trade-off that we have to look at when we're looking at the design of this road. And we're testing and modeling those peak hour periods in the morning and the afternoon. And, because that's when the volumes are the heaviest, that's when the safety issues really begin to show themselves in the heavier volume conditions. And so this then eliminates that left turn and that conflicting movement that the drivers here are probably not paying attention to, because they're looking at opportunities to turn left at either of these locations. So we felt just allowing rights at this location, while it does, yes, create some backtracking that has to happen, if we could get left turning traffic that wants to go north on Osseo to come up to the parkway and use the traffic signal to make a left turn to go north, that's the safer option versus maintaining an opening here at 45th Street. But again, this is preliminary design and we're looking for your feedback. So we appreciate those insights that you have on how it affects your daily operation.
Now,
Yeah.
45th is kind of a thoroughfare where the North Memorial emergency services drive on. Would that impact our ability to be able to provide emergency services?
Yes, with some of the routing, obviously with someone that's back here to the east coming on 45th, they're going to have to take a different route. They may be able to U-turn here and continue for that emergency traffic. So yes, it does have some impacts for the continuity through this neighborhood with 45th. So that is a downside to this option.
And in the comments, there are a few comments questioning the closure or the restriction of the turning movements on 45th, as well as for restricting the movements on 45th Avenue. We do have someone who's raised their hand. Lance Bernard, would you like to ask your question or make a comment?
Yeah, if you can hear me okay.
Yep, no problem.
Thumbs up, okay. I just wanted to say thanks for all the work on this. I know you guys are still working through some preliminary design and maybe some tweaks here and there. And I just want to express my happiness of all the improvements you are laying out here to really make this a safer corridor. As somebody that lives along the corridor, it's always challenging to walk along the corridor, and certainly the intersection there at the Parkway has just been such a dangerous intersection, as we've seen so many crashes recently in the last couple months. So I know again that there's some tweaks to the design, but I think, you know, those are the trade-offs we have to make, and maybe some of that might be inconvenient from us driving around the neighborhood, but I think overall this design feels good and will just make a better quality of life for us in the neighborhood. So hopefully we can work through some of these last minute tweaks, but thank you guys and job well done.
Thank you, Lance. So Jeff, if you can scroll over to Penn and 44th Avenue, and Amber and or Jeff, there are some questions. They're a little unclear of how this design will slow traffic down, as well as the pedestrian movement. Particularly, how will pedestrians from the south be able to get to the north side of the road? So maybe if you can just walk through that intersection.
So
Sure.
maybe I'll just kind of, as far as we do plan on with that possible ped crossing right there at Queens Avenue is part of it. It's right there. Will be a ped activated beacon of some sort that'll help people walking to cross there. Is that kind of, as far as ped crossing? I can let Jeff kind of explain a little bit more as far as if they're looking about the whole curve and speed reduction as well too. Yeah,
we kind of looked at, obviously with some of the safety concerns through the curve with some of the errant vehicles that have been experienced historically. And even here recently, it sounds like some incidents, looking to improve safety through this area. Also with pedestrian crossings through this general area, we thought just, would continue to add to safety concerns. So we really kind of decided to not promote pedestrian crossings through this area of the curve, just to try and help with overall safety. It's not that far to come down to another controlled crossing location with a traffic signal. So that was kind of our decision making there. But you could always, you know, put a crossing back in here with a ramp and a cut through on the median if there was enough comments to make us look at that. But that's our general approach here, is to not increase any confusion or complexity in this area of the curve with additional pedestrian movements across Osseo Road.
So those questions were from Gina Ralston and Katie Fitzpatrick. So do either of you have any further questions or need clarification on that intersection?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Gina. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, go ahead.
So my concern is by trying to push pedestrians down Queen Avenue, that you're taking people out of a natural walking path, because they'll have to, if they're coming from the southwest to get to the businesses on the northeast side of the intersection, that takes them a block north to Queen and then sets them walking down Osseo Road for quite an extended period. And I just don't think it's a practical way to change behavior of pedestrians. And so my concern is that then the pedestrian safety will be put in at Queen and none will be put in at the 44th and Penn area. And so then you just have less pedestrian safety where it's more pragmatically used.
And and just for clarification, the Queen Avenue location is in conjunction with the planned Queen Avenue Bike Boulevard that the city of Minneapolis is looking at.
Oh, that was my next question, is how will the bikers outlet after the lanes change?
Right. Right now, currently, the planning for that bike boulevard comes up to 44th and kind of terminates. And what we're looking at is to promote the route that would continue up Queen to this location. We're trying to find a little bit of a balance point between two sets of existing signals and future traffic signals. So we targeted Queen. The other option could be the bike boulevard would come up to 44th and come over. What we have to be careful of is introducing this, what would be considered a kind of a mid-block crossing location with the pedestrian or bicycle activated flashing beacons for that crossing to not be too close to an existing traffic signal or a proposed traffic signal. For those operations of vehicles who say we're sitting at the traffic signal here on 44th, they get a green light, come around the curve, and let's say we had an enhanced crossing like proposed here on this side of the curve. Are the drivers going to anticipate that? Is it too close to a signalized intersection? So those are things we just have to weigh, the pros and cons when we look at other crossing locations of Osseo Road. I totally understand the routing and some of the ways that may be inconvenient. So again, we're just looking to try to gain your input and get your insights on what you think in that day-to-day activity that you have out there, the best route and best ways to, safely promote pedestrian activity along the corridor. So we appreciate that input.
And we have Matt who's raised his hand. Matt, would you like to share your question or comment?
Yes, on 45th and Osseo, the little red line, the proposed concrete. Is there a height for that? Is it going to be tall enough that people won't just drive over it?
Yeah, our intent is that's a traditional 6-inch curb with this median here. The median, you can maybe just see a little bit of the line work. It would continue down to about in this location. What we also have to always be or watch for is turning traffic here. And if there's a bus, we don't want the full curb coming all the way down because the bus will just jump that curb as they make this left turn. So the curb full 6-inch height would probably end at about this point where these lines stop. But what we would do is continue concrete pavement here to continue to provide a visual cue that there's a separation here in the roadway. But back to your original question, it's a 6-inch standard curb on both sides of this median.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Matt. So just jumping back to the staircase, the question is, will the proposed staircase in the bridge, the crossing, have a light and a crosswalk to allow people to cross there to walk to the dog park?
I'm sorry, Joy, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so basically where the new walkway is put in for the staircase, will be a light and a crosswalk that will allow people to cross there, since that, I think, is north of the 47th Avenue intersection.
No, our intent would be to people to walk down to the 47th Avenue intersection and cross at that safe ped crossing. At the proposed crossing there would be the intent.
Okay. And then there was a comment that I saw, I think Dan Miller, you made a comment that the proposed concept on, I believe, the website does not include all the zebra crossings. So we'll take a look at that to make sure that that matches, or I don't know, Jeff, if you want to go through where there are existing or any new zebra crossings that are put in with this initial design.
Yeah, the painted crossings that show on the layout plan correspond to those locations that have additional controls for the pedestrians. So whether it's a traditional traffic signal, like here at the Parkway, those crossings receive the painted crosswalk treatments associated with the traffic signal operation. The other location would be here at 47th with that proposed flashing beacon for the pedestrian crossing. Other crossing locations, such as here at North Thomas as an example, we provide the curb ramps and the connections for pedestrians to cross Osseo Road, but it's not a striped crossing delineated on the pavement. It's a combination of kind of policy between the county and the city for where those locations receive that enhanced striping. When you put striping down, you also have to provide the additional signing to go along with those crossings. And so there's some additional requirements that go with providing those striped locations. So what's proposed is just those locations that have the enhanced signalized features, whether a full traffic signal or a flashing beacon.
Great, thank you. There also is a comment. We do have someone from the Victory Neighborhood Association here from the Environment Committee that says they will supply their comments separately, but they will take a look at our plan to make sure there's any more ways to make the project more green, including any opportunities to provide stormwater treatment. So maybe Amber, if you want to maybe highlight some of the new designs to help with stormwater treatment that we've included.
Up to this point, we haven't done a lot with stormwater treatment. That's kind of more once we get our geometry set. I mean, we plan to do catch basins, and as far as additional green space, we definitely are reducing our road footprint. So there's more impervious areas along the corridor to help with drainage. But that's kind of more of a final design piece that will kind of next, after we nail down a lot more of our geometry, we start to dig into more of the drainage features of it. But there's definitely a lot more green space, the grassy boulevards to help with drainage along the corridor.
Jeff, did you have anything to add, or?
No, I think Amber hit it just right. In a preliminary design, we will look at our consultant, Howard R. Green will be looking at that once we finalize our layout here and really know our existing compared to proposed conditions, and that will allow them to really evaluate that drainage. As you can see, just in the layout, there are some identified green areas where we are proposing to replace some existing pavement with return to turf grass, whatever. So it does open up some opportunities for some small water quality features along the corridor.
Great. Alyssa Murphy, you have your hand raised. Would you like to make a question or comment?
Yeah, it's in regards to the stormwater management along Osseo Road. I live on Osseo Road. I'm one of the few residents whose address actually is on Osseo Road. And as it is currently configured, the storm drains are not adequate to handle the volume of water on the road in a large rain event. And we regularly get the road flash floods if we have heavy rain. Currently at like Sheridan and Osseo Road, that whole, from either side of the road, it tends to flood, and there's not enough storm drain for the area.
Definitely. I mean, that's when we start to look at, we do the drainage analysis, and the intent would be to get drainage that holds that capacity for a 100-year flood along the corridor, so that shouldn't happen after the project's redone, because all of the drainage, all the catch basins and storm leads and runs will all be updated or redone completely, probably as part of this project.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Alyssa. So we do have another question about the Russell Avenue intersection. Can you explain how there is enough room to close Sheridan Avenue, but not enough room to close Russell Avenue?
Yeah, that's a good question. And what we talked about earlier, sorry, Amber, I'll just jump in.
Go ahead. No.
The Minneapolis Fire Department, and provided by Kelsey, who's on the line too, so feel free to jump in, Kelsey. But the criteria by the fire department has a length of roadway where the fire department can safely traverse with their vehicles down a certain length of street. And it's 150 feet is their distance criteria. So here on Sheraton, we're really only talking about 70, 75 feet of length in roadway. That so it's below that criteria for the fire department and their ability to turn a vehicle around. Whereas Russell, obviously, is significantly longer. And so we do not have to provide that type of a turnaround for a fire truck on Sheridan. So we're able to basically just cut the road off, provide a green strip to separate the two. We have provided this little back end, anticipating if residents have vehicles parked and there's no restrictions, you can park on both sides of Sheridan, excuse me, that if there are vehicles parked here, it would be hard for someone to turn around in the width of the existing street. So this is just a small turnaround feature that could help a vehicle turn around if they needed to. But it's just intended for a passenger vehicle. And so Russell, as compared to that criteria at 150 feet, is well beyond that. So we either have to provide a large cul-de-sac, and it is much larger for today's fire trucks, or we don't dead end it and just restrict some of the movements to try and improve safety. You know, we're trying to focus our left turn movements to get to the parkway versus turning here onto Russell, again, to have multiple movement activities occurring between other intersections that have much higher volumes of traffic, because the volumes are low here at Russell. That's what we felt it was an appropriate treatment.
Great, thank you, Jeff. So we do have a question again about 44th and Penn. Can you please be more specific about how the proposed design enhances traffic safety, especially in terms of cars leaving the road and crashing into the buildings at 44th and Penn?
Sure. And I might actually, this might be a good question. Amber, if you're okay, if I show that exhibit that I created for you the other day?
Yeah, that would be fine, yeah.
Let me see if I have that, yes. It's just a little better graphical explanation or visual. Because this question came up and provided some data back to the county. So The yellow dash line here is traced above the existing median that is out there today. I know it's hard to see, and that's why we put this yellow line basically right over the inside edge of that median that is there today. And using that as a controlling design feature, it's basically a 120-foot sized radius, which equates to a 20-mile-an-hour design speed. And it's really the abruptness that happens here that we think is adding to the safety issues and the ability for vehicles to safely traverse through here. Vehicles using the corridor are driving 30, and we know even more, probably 35, maybe approaching 40 miles an hour along the corridor. And that's an issue that we've heard. When they get to this location, because of this abruptness, we feel that vehicles just aren't anticipating it correctly, aren't slowing down appropriately, and are losing control because of the sharpness of this curve, only being, in theory, able to handle a vehicle at 20 miles an hour. So we're just trying to find a balance, and we're really trying to thread the needle through this area to try and not have significant impacts on the business properties. We are encroaching just ever slightly on a small sliver here to fit in a little bit larger curve. And our intent is to take away the abruptness and the change here on the curve, make it gentler, better to match what is anticipated as travel speeds out there. We're hoping that the reduced roadway travel lanes, not having the 3-lane kind of open feel, is also going to provide some traffic calming and slow traffic down, just in general through the corridor. But we felt that having a little more gradual curve line here as well, that is going to hopefully slow that vehicle down and not make the traversing of this curve something that surprises them. That's really our focus on this design.
Great, thank you, Jeff. We have about 2 minutes left of our meeting. And we do have one more final question before we wrap up our meeting tonight. It's a typical Minnesota question. Who will be responsible for snow removal on the ped and bike paths?
Ultimately, it'll be a maintenance agreement between the city and the county as far as who will do the snow removal along the corridor. So that'll be done farther once we head down more further design, we'll get a maintenance agreement.
Great. So just as we wrap up, well, we have one more question. So I'll take one more question. It's from Gina. Curious why there aren't more lights to slow down the traffic.
Meaning traffic signals?
I think so. So more traffic lights here.
Yep, that's a good question.
Some of it is general spacing of it. We like to have the signals spaced out appropriately so you can get traffic to move through without backing up. Is part of it. We have standards as far as how far they want to be spaced apart, where people don't just run them because they're tired of waiting at lights. So that's part of it, is the spacing of them. I don't know, Jeff, if you want to add.
The only other thing I would add to it, Amber, is the placement of a traffic signal has certain requirements and warrants for the traffic volumes, and you need to be able to meet those criteria in order to safely install a traffic signal. It becomes a legal issue with putting a traffic signal at a location that doesn't meet the warrant criteria, and that agency can be liable for putting in a traffic control feature that ultimately could lead to an incident or safety issues. So it's not just simply throwing one in because you want to try to subsequently interrupt the traffic flow and slow it down. They're not meant for speed control.
So is one warranted at 47th, I think, just a follow-up question to that.
No, it is not currently warranted at that intersection. that's some of the reason that we're looking to remove it. It's just not, yeah, it doesn't meet warrants.
Great. All right. Well, we are at the end of our time with you all tonight. I just want to mention there were plenty of comments in the chat. Just to let you know that we will capture all the comments that were written in the chat and put it in our summary, as well as share with Hennepin County, with AECOM and our agency partners. So we will capture all the lots of the comments that were made tonight, as well as any of the questions that were verbally asked as well. So I just wanted to go through again what the next steps are for this. We still want your continued input on this initial design. And as I mentioned before, the initial design, our presentation slides tonight, as well as the presentation recording are all posted onto the website, as well as the recording of this meeting will be posted to the website probably early to mid next week as well. So if you want to sit back with a drink and watch this over again, you're more than welcome to. But then we would also like you to contribute any additional comments, and you can do that several ways. Linked on our website is an online engagement site that provides an interactive map. So you're able to take a look at the design plans and provide a comment onto the map. It does give a little description of the features of the design, and so you're able to comment right there. There's also a link to an online website or online survey that you're able to respond to some set questions. If you don't have any specific comments right now, you're able to just respond to the questions that we have proposed tonight about a lot of the design proposal. And then we also have a page on that site that you can just type in comments about anything on the corridor. So please check that out, and that's all through the website. You're also able to email or call Amber as needed, and but we will be collecting any comments through the end of August. Not that the county will stop collecting comments, but at some point we need to be able to gather all the comments together, summarize them, and provide it back to Hennepin County as well as the consultant team. So the next step will be to wrap up this initial design in October, and then final designs on the plans will be presented by next fall of 2021, with anticipated construction starting in 2022. So it seems far, but hopefully before you know it, we'll be here and 2020 will be over. So next slide, please. So here's just more information, and I'll leave this slide up. We do have the website up there. And if you have not signed up for any email updates yet, please do so. That is available through the project as well. If you are a representative of an organization or neighborhood or business organization and would like an online presentation, please reach out to Amber and we'd be happy to provide that. So I just wanted to thank everyone. I want to thank the staff, the county, our agency partners, and the AECOM team tonight for all the information they provided, as well as all of you, the residents and businesses and other stakeholders who took time out of this beautiful summer night to join us for more information about our project. So thank you. We will close for now, and I encourage everyone to go out and get some sunshine. Thank you very much.